Our next speaker is Jane West. She is Policy and Planning Director for 1000 Friends. She has been practicing law for 21 years and is an AV-rated attorney admitted to the U.S. Supreme Court, the 7th and 11th U.S. Court of Appeals in the Southern and Middle Districts of Florida. She is highly knowledgeable on comprehensive plan amendments and zoning matters. She currently serves as the chairperson of the City of St. Augustine Beaches Planning and Zoning Board and was the founding member of the president of St. John's Association of Women Lawyers. Jane?
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. And Laura Lee, I just really, your comments really resonated with me. My 13-year-old son is an avid fisherman, and he also contracted those same sort of wounds on his feet when he went wading into our local tidal area to go fishing for redfish. So that really got to me. So thank you for sharing that. Also, love your restaurant. I can tell you as a practicing environmental and land use attorney for well over 2 decades here in the state of Florida, I can tell you the litigation is not working. I have been involved in many cases over the years, everything from challenging the minimum flows and levels that are hurting our springs to beach nourishment projects, and it's just not working. I think one of the most prime examples of that, for example, is the 5-decade-long fight to remove Rodman Dam. You know, one of the biggest acts that we could do in the state of Florida is remove the Rodman Dam so we can have over 20 springs flow again that are being submerged by the Rodman Reservoir and have that freshwater flow back into the St. Johns River. And we have not been able to get that done through lobbying for 5 decades, through federal litigation that went up to the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals, through working the back channels with the agencies, with DEP, with the water management districts. None of that worked. And here we are with a dam that's on the verge of collapse. It doesn't have any useful function. It doesn't create power. It doesn't have any sort of use whatsoever, except catering to a couple of cronies in my current hometown of Palatka. I live on the St. Johns River in Palatka, and I will tell you that the Bass Masters tournament didn't come to Palatka this year. You want to know why? Because the bass fishermen last year were complaining so much about the lack of seagrass and they could not get any fish. So they moved down to Lake O. I don't know how that's going to go for them down there. But the point is, this is affecting our local economy. Palatka can't take that economic hit, I can assure you. So I will share with you that Florida is really unique. We are not New England, where we're dealing with hazardous waste issues as our primary environmental threat. The biggest environmental threat to Florida beyond sea level rise is the conversion of raw natural land into sprawling development, because the domino effect from that conversion of raw land to sprawling development basically caters down to every other part, including impaired water quality throughout the state. There has been a systematic and intentional whittling away of the ability for Florida citizens to have a voice on the state of their economy. Let's just go back, for example, to the beginning of our current governor's administration. He set up the Blue-Green Algae Task Force. Do you remember he got elected when our Indian River Lagoon was basically avocado soup, right? So there was an outcry, a bipartisan outcry throughout the entire state for something to be done. So what does he do? He sets up a task force. That's great. You know, everyone was kind of excited. This task force was loaded up with really brilliant minds. It traveled all over the state. Lots of resources and public input went into it. Do you know that hardly any of the recommendations from that Blue-Green Algae Task Force have actually been implemented? There are bills pending right now in the legislature, and, you know, God, I really hope they pass, but I am not terribly optimistic. Some of the very simple recommendations stemming from the Blue-Green Algae Task Force include a mandate that septic tanks get inspected and monitored. Like, really? That's not happening right now? Come on. Another one is our basin management action programs. They wholly fail to incorporate population growth projections, just as the state of Florida is seeing an explosion of population growth. Does that make any sense that we're staying with stagnant projections for our BMAPs? No, obviously not. Currently, the agricultural industry has a presumption of compliance in verifying their best management practice effectiveness. It's not working. I can tell you, we can complain all day about septic tanks. They are horrible. They're a huge problem. But the number one contributor to impaired water quality in the state of Florida is big ag. And are we going to deal with that? No, because I can tell you as a lobbyist in Tallahassee, and I'll be there next week, by the way, for the start of session, there is such a strong special interest component in the legislature right now that prohibit any sort of forward movement on curtailing the activities that big ag is engaged in. So the litigation isn't working. Lobbying isn't working. This is, in my personal opinion, as a practicing environmental and land use lawyer in the state of Florida, this is the only path forward for us. If we don't make meaningful action on this constitutional amendment, I really don't see how the peninsula is going to continue to function with good water quality and quantity moving forward. So let's get this done, people. I'm happy to be a part of the effort, and thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Jane. One of our attendees in the chat said paradigm shift. Does our amendment represent a paradigm shift to you?
Are you asking me, Joe?
I am, yes.
100%, right? Because the actions that we have taken so far simply are not working. And in fact, what we're seeing now in the legislature is a slew of bills that are actually seeking to curtail even more the ability for citizens to engage. There's a bill pending right now that would prohibit any sort of referendum or initiative process for land development regulation amendments. So you can't litigate, you can't lobby, and now you can't even have a referendum put on your local ballot. Are you kidding me? Like, this is the muzzling of the entire state of Florida in terms of citizen engagement. And it's catering very much to special interests. And it's really, really unfortunate. We have a slew of bad bills pending this session. And I would really urge you to reach out to your lawmakers and put that pressure on. Ask them, what are you doing to make sure that you are protecting water quality in the state of Florida, and hold them to it. Go onto the House and Senate websites, look up your legislator, see what their sponsored bills are. If you have any questions, give me a call. I'm happy to walk you through it.
Terrific. Thank you, Jane.